This is Black Views. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Good morning, good afternoon, my brothers and sisters. Good to hear from you today. So today, our subject is going to be on the matter that we've been dealing with pretty much every damn day. We have the empire who basically feels that they can inflict any kind of financial damage they want to, and pretty much they have. If you say something about them or something they don't like, they will find a way to get you out the game. So, we've been listening to Kyrie, we have been listening to Kanye, and we have been seeing a backlash from the empire in the last I think 2 to 3 weeks. And we're looking at this, and anybody that's ever worked corporate, especially as a black man, you kind of understand to go into a situation where basically there are all these rules and regulations that's already set up against you. As soon as you go in and you talk to the manager or the project manager, there's already a write up or whatever somebody said or whatever they deem to be true. So you can virtually. It's been told that you were rude to a customer, and I'm talking as a contractor. I'm talking as a federal contractor working in federal agencies and being a contractor because they don't want to hire you. They just want to be able to fire you on the spot. And this kind of reminds me of the same situation. If a customer doesn't like you or doesn't like how you did your work, they can very much say to anybody, I don't want this guy to come back to my desk. And I've seen that over the years, working in government agencies as a federal contractor for IT, where there was a employee they didn't like or something they just don't like how you look, man. They are what you call at-will employers. These are the laws they have now, where basically they can terminate your employment existence based off of whatever they want. If they just don't like you there, don't like how you look. And quite frankly, to tell you the truth, the administration or the human resources, I'm not even going to say human resources, we're going to go down one level. We're going to go to project managers, all your managers, your leads, all these people that are in management could be against you, just for the mere fact they don't like you. Or one person can complain, can say, oh, they saw this or they heard this. In fact, you don't have to do anything. They can say they heard you curse, and that's a reason to walk you out of work. This happens to black people every day. Every day. That's why you see these books. That's why you see all this material out here on the internet now on how black people should behave themselves, how black people should basically, you can't even get in an argument. In some situations, you try to, if you were in an argument with an employee, if that employee gets loud, you better walk away, Jack, because they're coming for you. As a black man, with size, I mean, that's how I was born. Over 6 foot, over 220 pounds. This how I was born. I have no control over that. And when you go into a workplace, anyone can make a phone call and say they don't like your presence there. They don't think that you are grateful enough to be there. And so what does this have to do with Kanye? And what does this have to do with Kyrie Irving? Pretty much the same thing. Okay? First, if the company thinks you did something wrong. And I'll give you a story. It's just like this. You can be a contractor and you can be working on a site where if they don't like something that you do or something you said or how you manage something or whatever, they can go to your project manager and just call your project manager and tell them they didn't like such and such came into work today and he didn't won't even tell you. Go directly over your head to your superiors who are not actually on the work site. And then you will be reprimanded for that. These are the games that are played. And if you are, I'm not going to say so much. I know there are black women in IT, and they pretty much go through the same thing as well. In fact, sometimes it might be a little worse. They don't like their attitudes at all when it comes to black women. And a lot of these situations, they don't even want to hire a black woman, especially in IT. they like to regulate these areas. Some areas they don't want you walking in. They don't want you talking to other employees. It's if you've never worked in corporate, you don't understand. You understand what I'm saying? In some areas, they actually segregate. And when I say segregate, yeah, all the black people work on this side, and all the white people. How it turns out that way, that's just how it seems to turn out this way. And so many of you have experienced this too, where basically if you don't do this or do this, you're terminated. In Kyrie's situation, we're talking about millions of dollars and possibly being able to owe him. So if you look at the owner of the New Jersey Nets, look who he is. Look what he is. And when they get in management, it's not a healthy situation a lot of times. If when you're dealing with those people in business, they just want to get you out of there. They don't care. They just want to keep the money flowing, get them out of there. They don't care if you were right or you were wrong. They just want to get you out the paint because they know they want to keep the money going. And this is where the the lies come in, and how people personal feelings are, and not regulating and holding up the laws in workplace. You see this a lot, especially among black people. So black people always seem to be working in some type of shell. I worked in corporate for over 30 years, man. Coming straight out of the Marine Corps, doing this and working in IT. So I've dealt with different situations. First of all, as a black man, a lot of times they don't expect you to understand what's going on or what the hell you doing. They think this is what they think in their mind. Like, really, honestly, I'm talking about other workers. I'm not even talking about management at this time. We're talking about just working with other workers. How a lot of them don't think you know what the hell is going on for some reason. I mean, I don't even understand this. They really have in their mind your black ass don't understand anything. They do. There are other employees that will try you and test you and try to pick you for knowledge that you may already have on something they don't. They'll steal from you. They'll ask you how this goes, and then next thing you know, they did it already. So you really have to watch out, and I have to tell you, this is a bigger problem than you think. There are black people that are working all over the United States under fear of losing their job every day. You think it's bad for foreigners. I tell you what, I've been in many situations where the guy that's the foreigner ends up being your boss. He ends up being your supervisor. He ends up being the guy that rules over you, who doesn't quite understand what's going on, who there's a language barrier. This who they make you work under, man. They do this almost to insult you, make you work under less incompetent people just based upon that you're black. Not putting your ass up there. You're not getting in management, and the only ones that are going to get there, he has to be a real stickler. Okay, he has to really go along with the game, and then he has to have all the certifications, all the degrees to even get that position. Because they're looking high and far for that for someone that doesn't look like you to be in that position. Believe me. So if there's anyone that can outrank you as far as a certification or as far as a degree, they're gonna go with it, man. This is what they do. This is the industry. It's buck breaking territory, man. You can't. I mean, you get smart. We're talking about corporate, bro. We're not talking about working at the neighborhood restaurant. We're not talking about working down at the warehouse. We're not talking about, just having a casual job. We're talking about working in corporate. When your bosses are making six figures and over, well over six figures, and basically, in some situations, they just don't want to see your black ass, man, and that's just how it is. And you better not be trying to look like as if you're gaining enough knowledge. In fact, in many cases, you have more knowledge than they do, more knowledge than the project managers, and because once you've been working in that field and you've been doing the leg work, it's like you know everything that's going on. You're dealing with the customer, you're dealing with the issue, you're dealing with the ticketing system, you're dealing with all these attributes that basically telltale signs of your job. Whenever they want to know what the customer is experiencing, they're going to go to the ticket. They're going to see the ticket and going to critique the ticket. to a higher degree than anyone else's. Um, and this is just the way it is, man. And listen, it's white women too. A lot of white women, some white women are worse, especially if they are in alternative lifestyles. That I have noticed, they want to beat you out of that position. Okay, yeah, you have bosses that lie. Okay, you have people that work over you that will put in a report that you are detrimental to a contract. That's all they have to put in there. If you get in any kind of dispute, or maybe you know more than what they're saying, and the customer may have taken. Remember, you're a contractor. So the customer may have taken a liking to how you've done something or how you performed in your work, and then you have to come back to your little section, your area, where your manager don't like you. Just don't like you. You know why they don't like you? Because everybody's coming to you. Remember, you've been on a job for 2-3 years. Here's a manager or a lead or whoever based on a certificate that they have, or not even that, man. They're just looking for something other than your ass to be a manager or be in any type of authority in the workplace. And this is why you'll always get beat out of these jobs, man. I'm telling you, you can't be a mediocre guy. You can't just be a regular guy trying to get a position. You can't even be a regular guy and know your job trying to get the position. They're going to do everything they can to get you out of there, to make you a problem, to make every situation something. Oh, he didn't do this. What did he do today? They're looking at your time, from the time you get in, from the time which you should look at your time. You're supposed to be there at a certain time. You're supposed to leave at a certain time. But they're looking at yours in particular, just to make sure that you met all the criteria. And there's so many brothers and sisters that get put out because they're minutes late, or because they didn't do the documentation right, or because they didn't do something, just one little minor thing or something that most people miss. That gets you out of there, man. And this is sad, to come to work every day and know that there are people that are gunning for you. This is what's going on in the workplace. So when I see Kyrie and I see Kanye go through this, I mean, I perfectly understand as a regular worker. Okay, a lot of these jobs we don't hear about, we don't talk about nowhere on YouTube. I mean, a lot of places they are, but you don't hear about black people working in corporate. That's not our discussion. Discussions that you hear about is what's going on the block, what another nigga's doing. I'm gonna have to put a nigga down. I want to fuck this hoe. So when we talk about these type of subjects, accountability to the utmost, it's treacherous out there. When you're black and you get up higher than McDonald's, and you get up higher than working in the warehouse, or you get up higher than working in the field. We got field jobs, we got house jobs. House jobs are basically you wear a suit, tie every day. You're gonna wear, you're gonna look nice. The atmosphere. You have to dress towards the atmosphere. Your decorum must meet the requirement for that particular situation, or you won't be there. You have to pass the background check. You have to get a security clearance or whatever that. I mean, we're talking about properly vetted before you even get into these buildings. You can't have arrests. You can't have disorderly conducts. You can't have drug charges. You can't have assaults. I mean, it gets real finite in some areas where you have to go, when they start looking at your background and start looking at, and then when your background's clear, they want to look at your certifications, make sure it's right, make sure it meets every criteria, man. And like always, you get on the job, you know who's there, okay, and he's challenging you all the time. And when it's not him, it's the buffer class that's challenging you, okay? They get right up in the mix, right? They don't like you. Oh yeah, especially the ones of color that come from many of these places that look just like us. Oh yeah, they get up and they do a good job, and they wait till you leave, and then they'll tell the manager something that you did. Man, I've been through it all, man. I've been through it all, where you never have interaction with a manager or a leader, and they just go completely off of what someone else says. And we're talking about black women too. We're not even talking about in most cases. I mean, in most cases it is white, but there are a lot of cases where black women are they're in charge. Okay, and I respect that, and I go in and do the best job possible. But when they don't have anybody else to fuck with, you get fucked with, okay? They're not just gonna fuck with John, because John is a good guy and he comes to work and he leaves, but they're gonna fuck with you. That's why in many cases, Just separate yourself and just be a worker. Don't be a black worker. Don't. And I know what you're saying. I should be able to do this, but that's just not how it works in the corporate atmosphere. They're much more willing to let you go than have you stay there. And we're talking about companies like EDS, GDIT, SAIC. We're talking about companies, Fortune 500 companies that contract with the federal government. Okay, where that can be for technical support, right on up to building aircrafts. Okay, so you can work for a company like General Dynamic that does everything: build aircrafts, do computer support, work on servers, and so in all these groups, we're talking about IT. We're talking about working in IT. And we're talking about being around certain people that are treacherous, man. Especially when you work with foreigners. Remember, a lot of them come in on working visas. Those who are getting hired, they're foreigners. They don't have papers, but they're on working visas. I mean, there are so many foreigners that are working on a working visa. I work in the District of Columbia. Basically, well, I used to. And so a lot of contracts I would work on, being in DC, remember, DC was Chocolate City, used to be 75% black. I think it's down to like 45% black now. But there used to be a time where, as far as, it has never been a time where black people really worked in the government industry. Okay, until I think like the 60s, then they started letting black people be maintenance men. They started letting black people be mailmen. They started giving out these little federal jobs, okay, to support most of the black people that lived in the D.C. I keep saying most. I'm not going to say most. A very small percentage, but there were black people that did get an opportunity to work in the government, not as a contractor, but actually work for the federal government that allowed it to buy homes. A lot of black people that went into the military were able to go into the military. Were able to go into these government jobs and get pretty good pay. And keep in mind, very few black people that worked in these jobs made, big money. Okay, but they made, good money. Okay, that basically, who allowed them to have these jobs. So they were federal jobs. Then the federal government went through a process when they started getting computers and things like that. They didn't have an infrastructure. They were still using typewriters. They were still using word processors. So they had to bring in professionals, people that already had crews that knew how to work on systems, machines, servers, networks, and so forth like that. So that's how it came to be outsourced. Then you had the industrial, I want to say the contracting industry. So like I told you, you could have a company like GDIT on one government contract, they're building airplanes, and on this government contract, they're basically doing technical support. Basically, they're supporting a whole building that has computers in it with users. They're having different problems every day, logging in, the printing, and so forth and so forth. So this is what information technology, getting numbers, getting all type of different things, ad hoc, all the SAS, all these different numbers and things that the government need, they had to outsource. So that's where you had SAIC, GDIT, EDS, all these companies. That were either former military or somehow used to work. I can't go that far back, and I don't know, but I know they're all connected. Like Ross Perot used to have EDS, so I know I used to work for EDS. That was the same type of situation where when you come out the military, you can work for EDS. It's like the same hierarchy everywhere. Wear a shirt, jacket, and a tie every day to work. You know what I'm saying? For the customer. Because think about it, contracting is all about the customer, really. And to be a contractor, you're facilitating duties that they either can't do or they're outnumbered to do. So they contract another company to do these particular jobs. So this is where we are. And I'm just here to tell you, being a federal contractor sucks, man. You come in, if you come in as I'm sorry to say, I'm just going to tell you my experience. I can only tell you that. You come in as a black person, first of all, the black workers get upset. You're a contractor, Okay, remember they facilitate this because the technology they didn't have, so they have to outsource certain services in order to to keep the day-to-day operations going, such as computers, all those different type of things. Okay, so they outsource for that. So there are black people that already worked there. Remember, I told you they had government jobs. A lot of them were secretaries. A lot of the men didn't do secretarial. Most of the women did secretarial work, and they moved through years. They moved up in management, and then they become what you call project managers. Many of them become project managers or contracting officers, COTARs that see a situation, or that they see a contract, set the contract up, and then you have contractors that report to that government person for their boss, as their boss, pretty much. So that's the contract, and that's how it goes. So, as a black person, it's very competitive. And in the corporate world, everybody vies for the man's attention, bro. Whether you black or white or whatever, but they're all trying to get that, to show that they're bright eyed and bushy tailed and that they're better than the next person. In so many ways, it'll show in your work, but in a lot of other ways, it'll always show with either complaint, just don't like you, bro. When they at will employers, they'll find ways to get you out. And any they brush you the wrong way, or you just say something that may be not even controversial, just they didn't like. They can form it in a way to make it sound like it was threatening, and this is how they get black asses out of work on a corporate level. Especially younger ones when they first come in. A lot of them never made that kind of money before. Maybe they don't have the proper discipline. Me having a Marine Corps background, which kept me in a lot of different situations, I was able to, I don't know, man, just kind of simulate. I mean, you have to conform. In order to be a corporate worker, you have to conform to their percepts. If you don't get in the door. And this is how it's done. This is how it's done straight up. So if you are a black person that do not know how to show up at work on time, you won't work there. If you are a black person that does not know how to properly dress, if your shoes ain't right down to your shoes, if you, they're picking on everything. Okay, and that's just a little wrap up. I will begin to talk more about working in corporate and being a black man working in corporate, even working with black people. Sometimes it's makes you scratch your head, man. You see people that work in positions like 20, 30 years, man, and they're just ignorant as white people. Okay, because all their lives they have tried to make a check comparable to the white man and stay in his good graces. So when you come around and you're trying to learn, especially as a young black man. See, when I came in, this is when you had the civil rights people that have been working there for almost like 50 years and shit. So they're gonna get you right when you come through there. All right, because those sometimes in many cases those are the ones going to tell, those are the ones going to report to, not even say anything to you, brothers and sisters. Listen to me. They won't even tell you if there's something you did wrong. They'll go straight to management. Now, if you're a contractor, you'll get let go because all this is happening over top of your head. It won't even come down to you. That when by the time your project manager gets to you, all he's talking about is thank you for your services. Appreciate you. Everything you did. If you need a letter or anything like that, let us know. It's in and out. And I'm telling you, for black people, it's really in and out because now all you see when you go into these workplaces are foreigners. They're all foreigners. No one's talking about it. No one's preserving anything. And pretty soon, this is in my mind, the way I see it is, they trying to get it so that all niggas will do manual work. You'll be out of corporate. Trust me, because your offsprings aren't learning anything. Okay, they're walking around here trying to be like, someone that they're not. They're not even qualified, educated to have the education. But every day we look on the internet, we see black people acting as if We got it made. We getting paid. We and all we're doing is acting like whores and jigaboos every day. Okay, when there's a whole nother complete side of work that you can't even get into. Right off the bat, when they check your background, you can't step in none of those doors. Many of our black brothers and sisters are disqualified from working in corporate right off the bat. I mean, before these seven, right as soon as they turn 18, they giving you those because they don't want you there. So this is why we have a world environment where basically, as a black person, if you say anything, you can be locked up. You can catch a charge. Okay, and many of those charges will not qualify you for a background. Granting you a security clearance. For me, coming straight out of the military, I already had those clearances pretty much. So I was able to get into a lot of these areas where you don't see me. Okay, you don't see people like us working. And that's just how it is. They say things, they insinuate things, they talk behind your back because they don't want to. They say they don't, in their mind, they don't want to offend you with the shit they're gonna say. Okay, so they exclude you, and when you're like the only black person, it's really weird because when there's another black person, and then you click with if you click with that black person, then they make it look like you about to rob their ass. But I'm gonna go ahead and let it go with that. I'll come back hopefully tomorrow, have another video with some instances of what exactly I'm talking about. Thank you very much. This is Black Views, bringing you the black news.